Wait, what? I've done a dumb gag with Teferi's head before? Well, I quit then! Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today to talk about Brawl. We're going to talk about why it failed and why it has a better chance of success this time around, about 16 months after it was originally conceived and delivered unto the public. Because unfortunately, things weren't done properly the first time, and that led to Brawl actually failing and flailing out. So the first thing I want to do is actually cover what the Brawl format is so that we're all on the same page. So when it comes to Brawl, you build a 60 card deck. This deck is focused around a particular commander of your choice. You can choose any legendary creature, you can choose any planeswalker, either or. Those are your choices for your commander. Now, all of the cards in your deck do have to come from standard specifically. This is a standard format. Well, it's a standard variant format. So all your decks have to come from standard, and all the cards that go in your deck have to follow a couple of rules. One of the rules is that you're only allowed to play with one copy of any given card, except basic lands. Obviously, you can use as many copies of different basic lands as you want, but any other card you can only have one copy of in your deck, and additionally to that, it has to match your commander's color identity. And you determine the color identity of a commander by looking at all the mana symbols that appear on that card, either in the casting cost or in the text box. So if you were using Teferi, right, then your colors would be white and blue, and that would mean your color identity is white and blue. If you were using that crazy, funky artifact creature Golos from the new Core 2020 set, that actually has all 5 mana colors in its text box, which means even though it's a colorless artifact, it actually does have a color identity of all 5 colors. Now, your color identity matters because it determines what cards you're allowed to put into your deck. All cards you put into your deck have to match your commander's color identity. That's one of the specific rules that guides deck construction. And some of these restrictions lead to very interesting decks where you have a scenario where if you're building a 60 card deck and you're going to go with the normal 24, 25 lands, that means you're going to be playing with 35 different cards, right? You're going to have 35 different cards plus your commander to bring it up to like 36, add in 24 lands, and you got your 60 card deck. But either way, you're going to be playing with 35 different cards. Now, this varies a lot from regular standard decks because when you play regular standard, you're using up to 4 copies of given cards. And if you only have 36 different card slots available in your deck except for lands, and you're playing with the most redundancy possible, you're going to have 4 copies of each card, which means you're only playing with 9 different cards, right? Because you're playing with 4 copies of each of those cards. It makes a significant difference in the variance between what would go into a Brawl deck and a standard deck. Brawl is sort of like a standard commander in a way. You can view it as standard commander. You can view it as standard singleton with a little bit of extra rules action going on. They don't have any special rules about damage done by commanders or other things like that that comes along with Commander. It basically plays essentially as normal Magic. They're pushing it as a multiplayer format, but they're also pushing it as a 1 versus 1 format. This is something we'll get into a little further in the video. So there's multiple ways that this can be played, and you will have differing life totals depending on which of the 2 ways you choose to play it. So that's really the only difference to aside from deck construction when it comes to this format. There's not a lot of wild, crazy rules. It's just pick your commander, build around your commander's color identity, don't put more than 1 copy of any given card in your deck, and you're good to go. So that's the Brawl format. It is mini Commander in a way, and that's partially how it was marketed in the beginning. When we originally saw Brawl, it was back in something like March-ish. I believe it was around March of 2018, because it was right at the time Dominaria was dropping. In fact, Brawl was originally mentioned connected along with the unique buy a box promo of those Minotaur brothers, the Sun and Song speaker, whatever they were called. There's 2 Minotaur brothers. They were the first unique buy a box promo. So these were the ones where you could not get this card in packs. And so at the end of showing off that buy a box promo, they went, this card actually is going to be great in Brawl too. Come back tomorrow to find out what Brawl is. So the next day is when Brawl was explained to us. And in all honesty, they didn't do the best job coming out of the gates with it. Now you can tell there are reasons that Wizards of the Coast would very much like to have Brawl. One of them is the more Magic formats there are that people genuinely enjoy, the better it is for the game. That's just a given. If there are more different formats for people to play and they're enjoying and playing them, that means obviously more Magic is going to be sold over time regardless. Whatever way they're playing, casual, kitten top, modern, whatever, you go old school, vintage, there will always be a new demand for cards. It will vary from different subset to different subset, but either way, it does mean that each new format is a welcome addition to the game. But obviously, there's a much bigger one, and this is one that people pointed out, is that it causes you to play Commander, but with a rotation, which means you need to keep buying. You have to keep buying new stuff because, oh, look, like Commander casual top players can be like, okay, a new set comes out. All right, there's one card I want. I'm just going to go and pick up a single. Not much incentive to buy boxes, not much incentive to get a whole bunch of cards. But when you have something like Brawl, all of a sudden, you have an incentive to keep getting new cards. So from Wizards of the Coast perspective, it would actually be much better for their bottom line, their business standpoint, if everybody just dropped Commander and switched to Brawl. Now, obviously, they knew this wasn't something that was going to happen instantly, and it was probably just it'd be really nice if it happened, but it probably won't, because Commander players are fairly entrenched, and offering somebody a more shallow version of what they're already playing is not the way to go. And I think originally when they mentioned Brawl, they talked about Commander too much. They really did try and make you think of Commander first and then think of Brawl. And that was not a wise way to do things, because it's like thinking of, oh, I used to be married to someone who did everything for me and they were fantastic. And they're like, well, hey, I got an idea. Instead of being married to them, why don't you be married to somebody who does like 1/5 of the things they did? And it's like, wait, why? Because it'd be cool and we get money, yo. Like, there's like, where's the argument really for that kind of a thing? So the scenario was kind of an uphill battle to begin with. They mentioned Commander. You could see when they originally mentioned Brawl, they were trying to give it this is a grassroots outside the company thing. Like, Commander is a format that Wizards of the Coast did not create. They just officially acknowledged it. It was originally known as EDH, Elder Dragon Highlander, and it was made popular by Magic judges, and basically like it kind of grew on its own out of nowhere, right? Just boom, all of a sudden, wow, a lot of people like this format, and it's influencing the secondary market of a bunch of cards. Like, Commander has a genuine market influence. I mean, obviously, you know Commander is good because every year they make decks specifically for Commander. Commander as a format gets new offerings every year. Here is our tribute to Commander. So Wizards looked at EDH and said, okay, we can't market the term EDH because we can't legally own it. We're going to change the concept to Commander, but we're going to have a hands-on and hands-off approach where we have like a rules tribunal, and it's not really like officially governed by Wizards of the Coast, right? So they let the format determine itself. So I believe what they were trying to do back then with Brawl was make it seem like Commander was conceived in a similar way, because they said that how Brawl started out was that someone who worked at Wizards of the Coast developed it on his own, playing with his friends or whatever, and they just kind of found out about this format that he played, and then they tried it internally, and a whole bunch of people enjoyed it internally in the company, and they decided, you know what, we're going to make this a format. So that to me seems like an attempt to be like, check it out, it's like Commander. We didn't really make it, somebody else did. We just kind of taken it and loving it, the same way that Commander was like built in that grassroots sort of everybody's chilling and it's popularly created as opposed to a product that's marketed to us. So you've got a scenario where they come out with this kind of marketing where they're saying, okay, this is the angle we're coming from. And they also, I think, we're trying to emulate the whole hands-off approach when it comes to rules and things like that. So they didn't really create a banned list or anything of that nature. And that ended up being a big problem when people just started playing really awful Baral Chief of Compliance decks. Like, Baral Chief of Compliance pretty much is one of well, I mean, in terms of the actual gameplay itself, in terms of people playing the game, Baral single-handedly elbow dropped the life out of Brawl. Now, he wouldn't have been able to do it on his own if they had chosen, you know what, we're going to have we're going to have our whole, like, we're going to have our eye on this. We're actually going to create a banned list. We'll be in charge of the format. I think they were hoping that like a Brawl rules committee or something would form on its own the same way it did with Commander. And they could be like, we'll sell products into Brawl, but we won't worry about managing Brawl. From a business perspective, that's fantastic. You avoid all the feel bads of telling people, oh, these cards are banned and all this kind of stuff. So they took this hands-off approach. And they also had no Brawl products available. The only thing you could even possibly think of related to Brawl as a product was the Buy a Box promo. The Buy a Box promo Legendary Minotaur, they said, this would be great in Brawl. They didn't say we created this for Brawl. They said this would be great for Brawl. Brawl also happened to come out right when Dominaria was coming out, and Dominaria has a Legendary Matters theme, where every single pack has a legendary card in it, and the majority of those cards, with the exception of like one enchantment, are all legendary creatures, right? Or maybe 2 legendary enchantments. Either way, almost all the cards in the legendary slot, there's probably a few more exceptions, but the vast majority were legendary creatures, which means they're a natural fit for Brawl, right? But that didn't come across as if they had designed Brawl for Dominaria, like, and Dominaria for Brawl. It didn't seem like that. It seemed more like they just kind of made Brawl up on the spot as a way to try and get you to buy more packs of Dominaria. It honestly came across as a marketing gimmick. Whether it genuinely was crafted in the idea of this will be a format for real, or if it was just, let's quickly slap together a format, come up with like a good sounding backstory as to why it was created, or like fluff the details a little and make them sound more impressive than they are when somebody kind of had the idea and played it once with their friends. Either way, the way it all came together was they didn't have any products at all that were supporting Brawl. They were like, okay, we don't have a banned list, we don't have products for you, and it's not something like it's not something that we're really properly supporting. So people looked at it and went, is this even a thing? Like, honestly, there's a part of me that wonders if Brawl was originally just going to be standard only. A part of me thinks they might have intended Brawl to actually be a modern format. And the reason that I think that is they came out with the guild kits. I don't know if you guys remember the guild kits, but they did one for each guild. They came with a little enamel pin, a 60 card deck. Each of these 60 card decks had like a legendary front-facing creature, Tristani, Niv Mizzet, but each deck was like pretty much almost all one-ups. There was like 2 or 3 cards at most in the deck that there were multiple copies of. It almost felt like it was originally supposed to be a Brawl deck. Like they had concepted Brawl as a modern concept and then kind of abandoned it. And it came out and people looked at it and went, this isn't a standard deck because you can't play in the standard. It's just some kind of guild themed deck, but why are there so many one-ups? It was a genuinely muddled product that just added more confusion to the signals that we'll be putting out there. And when you look at the fact that they kind of went, Brawl's a new format for Magic the Gathering. We're not selling any products for it. Just use what you got. Here's the format. By the way, we're not going to do anything to maintain the health of the format. And if you're not doing anything to maintain the health of the format, it honestly seems like Brawl was just abandoned by Wizards of the Coast, and very, very quickly, in fact. So now we come to the time where it's been 16 months, and this is crazy. This actually speaks to how long it takes Wizards of the Coast to make products as well. You have to understand that they move in dinosaur speed, just like slow and old and taking a long time to get stuff done. So it takes them over a year from concept usually to get this stuff printed, which is insane. It's insane that they're that far out. It's so hard for them to be reactive to things as a company that way. But anyhow, we get to the point now where we're actually looking at Brawl re-emerging. They have triumphantly re-announced Brawl and said, okay, we're going to do it. We're bringing Brawl. But this time, they're actually doing it in a way that gives Brawl a lot more success. They have signaled that they will, in fact, actually take stewardship over the format. And that means they will be banning certain cards, going, you can't use this. That's necessary for any format. There is no format in Magic the Gathering that does not need some level of governance, because otherwise they just fall apart into degeneracy. That's how it goes. There's a certain subset of people who just can't help themselves when it comes to playing the dumbest, brokenest stuff around. And I get the appeal. But either way, they've decided, okay, we're going to take stewardship over this product. We're going to be responsible for what's going to be banned in it. On top of that, we're going to actually promote the format. And they're doing this in a number of ways. They're releasing 4 Brawl decks coming out with Throne of Eldraine. 4 decks that have 20 unique cards that are included in these Brawl decks that also can be used in Standard. Now, some of these cards are useless in Standard. We actually went over one of those in yesterday's video where we had a couple of spoilers specifically from these Brawl decks. But there's 20 unique cards, 7 in each deck, so some of the decks have some duplicates and whatever. But either way, there are cards specifically designed. There are cards specifically designed to support Brawl. They looked at what's in Standard, and they looked at what some color combinations were lacking and said, you know what, we don't have good enough green, white, blue for Brawl commanders. So what do? We make that guy, I called him Chulane yesterday. Apparently, according to the comment section, his name is something closer to Kulan or something like that. Anyhow, they create that guy specifically for these Brawl decks to help flesh it out. So you have them bringing up Brawl decks. They're going to have events that actually happen at the LGSs. If you go to these events at the LGSs, they will actually give you some kind of special Brawl cosmetic. I'm guessing a skin or something like that from a random card in one of the decks. I don't know exactly what it'll be, but either way, it's little things like that that are excellent improvements, having physical products to support it. Also, they're bringing Brawl into Magic Arena. Previously, they brought it into Magic Online, where of course it was going to be doomed to fail miserably, with no real support for the format and a real lack of variety, because let's be honest, when you're sticking only with the standard cards, you do have a lack of variety. So on MTGO, you have that lack of variety, but the problem is everything else is available. So you're just looking at a tiny drop in the bucket and going, I can play Commander. I can play with so many more cards, and Commander's established. I'm going to have way more fun playing Commander. But on Arena, there is no Commander. This is the closest thing that Arena will get to Commander, barring them coming up with some kind of Brawl historic or historical Brawl format, which if it gets to the point where people demand a historical Brawl format, then you will know that Brawl has been successful as a format, because it's stuck around enough in Standard that people are like, I want more of this. I want more varieties. Give me historical Brawl where I can use some of the older sets on Arena as well. And that could actually play to Wizards' favor as well. Having like a historical Brawl variant still gives you more variation, but the pool is small enough that as new cards come along, people will still have interest. It will cause people to have interest in buying older packs in Magic Arena as well. So Magic Arena is a much better home for Brawl, but there is one problem right now with the whole Arena and paper Magic, and it's that they're focusing on 2 different things. So the paper product is being pushed as multiplayer, where the Arena version is being pushed as 1 versus 1. This is going to cause some problems. Honestly, they need to have a singular vision for this for it to be most effective. And I think what they should have done is actually just said, you know what, Brawl's actually one-on-one. Brawl is a one-on-one format, and that's what we're going to go with. They have the option of multiplayer or one-on-one. If you go one-on-one, it differentiates itself more from Commander and starts to feel more like an interesting Singleton-style variant. Now, that's personal opinion, and that I do have a bias. I don't really like multiplayer games, and not all the clever people are like, 2 people playing Magic's actually multiplayer. Not for the discussion we're having. Multiplayer is 3 players or more, right? So for me, I don't enjoy that style of Magic. So that could be biasing me here. I could be wrong about that not being the best choice. That part is definitely open up to debate. But either way, the fact that they actually are making physical products now, including events that actually will feature it, that sort of thing, combined with making it available on Arena, gives it a much better chance of actually being viable and survivable, as opposed to before, where it's like, we made Brawl, here you go, buy Dominaria and get some Legends, please. Like, it didn't come